I've been cruising mostly mega ships, Icon, Utopia, Wonder, Star of the Seas over the past year, but today I'm doing something different. I'm boarding Radiance of the Seas, and we're gonna get the small ship experience. So come along this week, I'm gonna show you the difference between cruising a mega ship and a more traditional cruising experience on one of the smaller ships. Welcome back to my channel, Nikki on Deck.
Boarding Radiance of the Seas in Tampa was surprisingly easy. The terminal is much smaller than what you'll find in Miami or Port Canaveral, but that was actually part of the appeal.
Okay, here we go. One of the biggest things I've noticed already, big ship versus small ship, is how easy the boarding process is. There's hardly anyone here. It's 10:45, we're boarding. No Miami traffic. Tampa was simple. And I mean, it is a Saturday, but no Miami port traffic, was really nice. And the port was very simple. So when boarding these smaller ships, you're kind of channeled through the hallways. They send us through the shops area, and I haven't even made it to the Centrum yet. Well, let's go check it out. It's very different from boarding in a giant promenade. It's a very different boarding experience. Everything is kind of right here, close, but it's really, really pretty. I haven't been on this ship since 2019, and I forgot how beautiful these old classic ships really are. So of course I have to check out the casino. It already smells like smoke, which isn't ideal, but whatever. And let's check it out. Let's see the table section. It looks like it's a very different layout from other ships. You have the tables in the center and the bar here and machines all around. And honestly, for this size ship, it seems like a lot. It seems pretty big. I always like to check out the Solarium when I first get on board. It's one of my favorite spaces on Royal Caribbean ships, and this Solarium on Radiance of the Seas is very different from other Solariums and very nice. It has kind of a jungle theme going on with elephants overlooking the pool. The whole decor is just very different from other Solariums. It is fully enclosed, it's cool in here on a very hot and humid day, and the pool is actually really quite nice. It's very large. I mean, this is not a big ship, guys, and this is a very large, nice pool for the amount of guests on board. I'm very pleasantly surprised with this Solarium. I'm up in the Viking Crown Lounge, a really pretty kind of observation lounge up on deck 12. And here's what I've noticed. It's been a long time since I've been on a small ship. I'm used to so many options for food, a big royal promenade, and just activity everywhere on boarding day. On this ship, it's very different. I've already walked the pool deck, the Solarium, the Centrum. I've been everywhere. It's just so easy. I think this is a great ship for people who don't want to put in 10,000 steps a day walking all over, because there are still some really nice things about it. The casino was very nice and actually a good size for the amount of people on board. The Solarium was beautiful. So I think I'm gonna like this week. This ship definitely has an old school cruising feel to it, very nautical theme, lots of wood tones, it's very pretty. This is an aft balcony room. Looks pretty decently sized. You've got the vanity setup, which is actually pretty nice. A couch. Everything is kind of dark and navy and going with that nautical theme of the rest of the ship. Now on these older ships, you don't have outlets next to the bed. So I always bring a really long cord so it can stretch, because I'm gonna have to plug it in over here. So you've got 2 regular outlets and 2 international. The bathroom, which is very old school, so it still has a shower curtain, unfortunately. Sink, pretty basic setup here. It's the end of day 1 on Radiance of the Seas. Let's talk big ship versus small ship. First of all, boarding was so simple and easy. There just are not as many people. Now, I always board the big ships early, and it's very seamless too, but you come onto Radiance and it's so low key. There's music playing and the Centrum is all lit up, but it's nothing like walking onto a royal promenade, which is like a giant party. Typically when I first board a ship, I like to explore, walk around, do all my filming, and
On the bigger ships, it takes me some time to do that. I walked all of the main public areas on this ship within about 30 minutes. So on a ship like this, you're not going to be putting in 10,000 steps a day like you would on Icon or Utopia. Everything is much more convenient. So I think it's a really good class of ship for people who have mobility issues and just don't want to walk as much. Trivia was packed. You can tell that this crowd really enjoys the games and the entertainment. It wasn't all about the pool deck. On Icon, sometimes only a handful of people would show up for trivia. Definitely the crowd is very involved, and I have a feeling that I'll get to know people a little bit better by the end of this week versus when you're on board with 7,000 people on Icon, you never see the same person twice. The pool deck is the most obvious difference between a small ship and a bigger ship. On Oasis and Icon class ships, you have multiple pools, splash areas, entire outdoor neighborhoods spread across several decks. Radiance has one main pool, plus the adults only pool in the Solarium and this small kids area in the back of the ship. The pool itself was really nice though. It was deep and big with plenty of deck chairs. You can see here on a crowded day that there was plenty of room for everybody. And the crowd really got into the belly flop contest and the other contests on board. But there were definitely trade-offs. When the pool had to be closed, and it did happen a few times on my cruise, there was nowhere to go. So the pool overall was nice and relaxing, but definitely not feature-packed like you would find on the bigger ships.
So I'm down here getting my morning coffee at Cafe Latitudes. On a small ship, there's one option for your coffee in the morning, a specialty coffee, and that's Cafe Latitudes. On the big ships, you can get Heart Cafe, Pearl Cafe, you can get your specialty coffee in Windjammer. There's so many options. However, there are a lot fewer people on board Radiance, so even though there's limited options, the crowds are not as big either. You would think you would back up at the coffee spot when it's the only place to get your Starbucks coffee in the morning, but it's not too bad. So food options are definitely limited, not just for breakfast, but overall. I'm used to being able to grab good food at Base Camp or Cafe Promenade. They do have a Cafe Promenade here, but it is very limited options. There's just so many options on the big ships, and here that just isn't the case. There is Boardwalk Dogs, which has hot dogs and things. There's Windjammer, and even Windjammer, the hours are much more limited than they are on the bigger cruise ships. So just keep that in mind with the smaller ships. You can grab quick bites at Cafe Promenade, at Cafe Latitudes, but it's just a much more limited selection than what you would see on Oasis or Icon class ships.
One thing that really surprised me about sailing on a smaller ship was the sense of community that developed throughout the week. Activities like trivia, Name That Tune, and the evening entertainment in the Centrum were consistently packed. Not just with people watching, but with people actively participating. There was a level of energy and engagement that I wasn't expecting. One of my favorite examples of this was the family egg drop competition. People filled multiple levels of the Centrum to watch, cheer, and see whose creation would survive the fall. It turned a simple game into one of the most entertaining events of the cruise. Now, don't get me wrong, these same activities can be really fun on the bigger ships too. And again, I'm not choosing Radiance over Icon of the Seas any day, but I was surprised by this real sense of community on Radiance of the Seas. It's a great ship for solo cruisers or people who really do like to meet others on vacation.
Another big ship versus small ship thing that I've really noticed is getting on and off is very easy. There's just never as many people. So Cozumel is a very popular port, and I came down and was behind maybe 2 or 3 people waiting to leave. I do love my Icon class though. Icon and Star do a very good job of moving people through the boarding process, getting on and off the ship at ports. So I'm not gonna hate on them too much.
Now everybody wants to know, is Windjammer crowded? Well, this is breakfast on a sea day, and you can see the tables are pretty full. Breakfast on a sea day is the most crowded that Windjammer will get, and it really wasn't that bad. And lunch wasn't crowded at all. So it's a sea day in Windjammer, and it is just not crowded at all. So it's kind of early, it's 11:30, so a lot of people probably came in here for breakfast and it was probably busier then, but it's pretty nice. This is one of those areas where you really notice that there's not as many people on this ship. So Windjammer crowds were pretty manageable, and specialty dining was actually really nice.
I ate at both Chops and Giovanni's, and both were beautiful, classic locations with big windows and ocean views. Very good meal. Interestingly, the Chops on Radiance of the Seas was the very first Chops on the Royal Caribbean fleet.
Now, it's not my proudest moment, but I am eating wings in bed at 11 o'clock at night from room service. But they're really good, so. I mean, what's a girl supposed to do when there's no Sorrentos on board?
Another great feature on Radiance class ships are the glass elevators. As you ride up and down, you have views of the Centrum or actual ocean views from the elevator. It's really quite beautiful.
One thing these smaller ships do well is have all these secret little spots you can get away from the crowds. Let me show you a few on the front of the ship.
If you walk all the way forward on deck 12 and then down these stairs here, you'll walk out to this secret little balcony that was the best sail away spot. This was an amazing spot overlooking the helipad where we watched the ship go underneath the Tampa Bay Sunshine Skyway Bridge.
One of the really cool things you can do on a small ship that you're not allowed to do on the bigger ships is access the helipad. We're on deck 5 forward, and we're going to head up those stairs to see it. You can go all the way to the front of the ship, Titanic style. Honestly, it's a little weird. I'm all alone up here and it feels a little crazy.
After a week on board, would I choose Radiance over an Icon class? No, Icon class still definitely wins out for me. I enjoy having more options, more entertainment, more places to explore, and there were definitely moments where Radiance showed her age. Let's just say I'm not sad to leave the shower curtain behind. But here's what surprised me. I did genuinely enjoy my time on board. The people were fantastic, so fun. The atmosphere was welcoming and everything felt easy. Whether I was heading to trivia, grabbing coffee, meeting friends in the casino, or finding a seat for an activity in the Centrum, everything was just convenient. And that's really what I came away appreciating most about smaller ships. They're less about having the most things to do and more about enjoying the things they do have. If you're looking for water parks, multiple neighborhoods, and endless dining options, you'll probably prefer the newer ships. But if you enjoy a more relaxed pace, a strong sense of community, and a cruise that won't break your budget, I can absolutely see why so many people love ships like Radiance. As for me, you'll definitely find me back on an Icon class ship very soon, but after this cruise, I have a much greater appreciation for what the smaller ships bring to the table.
Thanks for watching. I'm Nikki. I'll see you on deck.